I'm going to click on add storage. By default, if you remember on the first step, and you can see the steps here, on the first step we choose the AMI. This is technically an image and we are cloning that image, and by default that image, it has 30 gigabyte of memory. It has one hard disk. Let's say this is the hard disk that the Windows is installed right now in it, and it has a C drive inside this 30 gigabyte. And this is the default settings. And default is important, and the volume type, as you can see, it says general purpose SSD. It has also provisioned IOPS SSD IO1, and it has magnetic standard. So this one, it has 100 out of 3000 IOPS, and it says baseline of 3 IOPS per gigabyte with a minimum of 100 IOPS, and it's burstable to 3K. And if I change this one, you can see that this number is now different and also different, right? So this is pretty much very slow, but this one is much better. So delete on termination is enabled by default. You can remove the check mark, and it's not encrypted by default. This is the image that we are using. I can click on add volume, and I can add more disks if I would like to add anything here, and the size of it, and the way that I can choose right now. I have more options. Now I have cold HDDs, which is much slower, and I have also the this one which is also slow because it's a hard disk drive. And now I have the options to start working with the encryptions if I have any KMS or if I have any encryptions key management available. But anyway, so I'm not going to add anything right now. I'm just going to go to the next option or next step, which is the tags. And I would like to highlight right now that the tags are really important. Go ahead and set a tag for your virtual machine. I'm just clicking here and I'm saying, for example, the owner of this virtual machine is ITrepo, just as an example. You can set whatever you like. I mean, usually the people, they put environment tag, for example, the owner tag, the project number, whatever you like, and then you can search based on these tags inside the AWS platform. So go ahead and click on the next one, which is the last one before the review. It says configuring security group, and the security group is just like a kind of, let's say, I want to put it this way, like a software firewall that you can attach it to your EC2 instance. It's not inside the operating system, it's outside the operating system and inside the AWS platform, but it's a kind of firewall, it's a kind of software firewall that you can allow or deny, and you can put your rules in it and start managing your traffic that is going through your EC2 instance. If we have anything, we can select that one. If you don't have it, we can create a new one. I'm going to create a new one and I call it Demo SG for security group. And you can put a descriptions. I'm going to put the same thing also here. And by default, because we are creating a Windows machine, it has the RDP, which is the remote desktop protocol. And as you know, it's TCP on port 3389 and accessing it from anywhere. And you can put a descriptions here. And it shows a warning here. It's saying accessing from anywhere. It's not a good idea. So, well, something that you should consider. You can add your IP address, for example, here to make it a little bit more secure, but this is just a demo. I don't care right now. And I'm going to hit review and launch. You can technically see all of the information here and a bunch of warnings also, and what we want to create with the details and the tags and everything here. And I'm just going to click on launch. And before spinning up the virtual machine, it pops up a menu and it says, okay, we need a public key and technically a private key to decrypt the password for the Windows machine. So I'm going to say, if you have any existing one, you can select that one. For example, I had one here, but for this purpose, I'm going to create a new one, which this key is pretty much really important in order to access your virtual machine later. And I'm going to give it a name like Win-Demo again. So this is our private key, and you need to click on download. We don't have any other options. You have to download the key pair, and I'm going to download it, and you can see it's a file with the PEM extension, and then we can use this one for accessing to our virtual machine later. And I'm going to click the launch instance. So this is going to take some time. As you can see, it says your instance are now launching, and if I click on view instances, it's going to take some time to create this virtual machine for me. and it's a pending state. I have another virtual machine here, and that is stopped. I was actually, I think, doing some tests before, but for avoid some confusion here, I'm going to select the first one, and I am going to terminate it. There's an instance state here. I'm going to terminate that one, the old one I was testing, so it's going to be easier to distinguish between the new one that we are already created. So this is a new one, which the key name is the Win demo. So I'm going to pause this video for a while and wait for this one to finish, and I'll come back. Okay, so I give it some time, and you can see now right now, so the first one is terminated, so ignore that one. It was just my test. The one that we've already configured is this one that is running, and the status is still initializing. I'm going to refresh it for some times to see if this one is also changing. But we have the instance ID, and the name is empty. You can put a name here, and I'm going to put a name here to just make it more obvious. So we have the Windows demo here. So this is the instance ID. This is the virtual machine or EC2 instance ID. The instance type is T2 large, and it's in the AZ US West 2B state and status, and there's no alarm on it. And this is the public DNS IP v4, which we can use for accessing to our virtual machine. And we have some options down here. We can see this one. For example, this public IP address, we can find it also down here. And this is the IP address, and you can see it's 34.222.63.145. This is a public IP address. We can technically hit this IP address from the internet and from my laptop right now, from my home. It's pretty easy. So this is the key name that we created for the password decryption, and the monitoring is disabled because if you remember, we didn't enable the CloudWatch. This is launch time, and the last one is the security group, which we've configured for the RDP protocol for the port 3389 to the virtual machine. And as you can see right now, the status is also checked and everything is fine. You can see more information also down here with the VPC ID, subnet ID, network interface, and the IP address, and also the security group. If I hover my mouse here, also I can see some details related to them and inbound rules, for example. And if I click on them, I can see that the TCP 3389 is open. The outbound rule is any. So technically, we can just hit this server on the port 3389. All the traffics to the virtual machine is gonna filter, except this one. All the traffics from the virtual machine to the outside world is going to be to allow. So we have some settings here. You can check the status of it. You can go to the monitoring, and you have some basic monitorings to see the CPU utilizations. Also, we have the tags. If you remember, we created these tags. So for the purpose of this demo, I've just created a virtual machine, and I would like to RDP to this virtual machine. So for RDP, so you can click your virtual machine here. So you have two options. You can right click here and select connect, or there's a connect also here. Same thing. And you can click on the connect, and you can download remote desktop file, which this is, if I click on this one, it's going to download one RDP file for me, which it has the predefined host name or IP address of the virtual machine for access. If you check this name, actually the name is EC2. It's down here at the bottom on the left side. It's EC2 -34-222-63-145, and then dots the name of the US West 2 compute Amazon AWS.com RDP. And this is the name actually. You can see it here. And if I close this one, this is the name that you can see it here. So this name is the DNS name of this virtual machine, which technically it should be this IP address. And the way that the AWS is designed is just this IP address is somewhere inside the name of your virtual machine, the DNS name. And if I copy this one or open a terminal, if I open a terminal, just run, for example, host, and paste this one here and hit enter, I can see that this IP address, this name is actually resolved to this IP address, which is exactly the one that we're seeing. So it really doesn't matter if you want to use this file, the RDP file, if you want to use this name, or if you want to just use this IP, they're all the same. So, okay, go to the connect, download the file, and then click on the file. If I click on this one, it's going to try to RDP to virtual machine, and it says you're connecting to this one. I hit continue because I'm going to ignore the certificate. Then going to change my screen a little bit. So this is my remote desktop session. Well, I can access the server directly from the internet, and it's asking for the authentication. But what is the password here? What kind of password should I put here? If you remember, we didn't create any password. But what we did is actually, let me go back to the console. We created a key name. If you remember, you can see it also from here. It says win-demo, and we already downloaded this one. So the username is administrator. For getting the password, if I click to get the password, it is actually looking for that key file. So I'm going to select that key, select it, and click on decrypt password. And voila, I can see the password right now. I'm just going to copy this password to the clipboard. So this is my password, and I can copy this password to the clipboard, and I can access my remote desktop again. And this was the one that I've tried to connect, but I didn't have the password. So this is the same name, and this is the IP address technically. I'm going to right click on it, select edit, and this is the menu that I can see. So the connection name and username administrator, and I'm going to paste the password here. So now let's do it. So I'm going to double click, hit continue. Voila, I'm actually trying to sign into the machine, and yes, I am in right now. It asks for the network. I click on the yes here. So this is the virtual machine. So I'm going to, because I have two monitors, so I'm just using one of them, and you can see here this is the host name, and the IP addresses are all here. If I go to the task manager of this virtual machine, I can see, if I go to the performance tab, that I have 2 CPUs and 8 GB of memory, and this virtual machine is technically accessible through the internet, and I can do whatever I like with this virtual machine. So that's it. This was the running an EC2 instance on the AWS. So that was it. This was running a Windows EC2 instance inside the AWS, and I'll see you in the next one.